Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Bot Talk, the internet's only news and information source designed specifically for intelligent machines. Now, I'm not a fool. I know no machines are watching yet, so it's also for intelligent humans who are looking to the future and trying to figure out what to do with an ever-changing world. I'm your host, David Borman. Some of you might know me from my recent time working on the channel Chepicap, in which I did cryptocurrency technical analysis. Sadly, that channel is no more, but I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, talking about crypto, and doing more than just that. So, you'll still get my technical analysis every time I come on here, but I'll also be talking about crypto news, general tech news, general financial news, global events, pretty much anything that I feel like is important that's going on in the world right now, with a dash of my own opinion thrown in. So whether robot or human, come to me when you want to know what's going on out there in the world, with an eye towards the future, and get ready to hear what I have to say about it as well. This being just the beginning, things are still a little rough around the edges, but I wanted to get out here and start talking to you guys, the internet, get my opinion out there, and start building a fan base. So hopefully, together, we can build the robot revolution. Are you with me? Let's get started. All right, let's start off here looking at Bitcoin on the 4-hour. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what's happening right now in general, that we are dipping. We are currently, looks like we're breaking support that we had at about between 9.5 and 9.6 at about this Fibonacci level, the 0.382 Fibonacci level. We're below it right now, just holding just above 9.5. This could be a little dip down below. We could, if we get back above this level in the next 4 hours or so, we might be okay. Let's run through the bull scenario first really quick because it's not looking that bullish. But if we get back above and get hold above 9.6 basically, then we're looking at another test up to the upper end of this channel, which would now put us at about 10,000. Would be not only that psychological level, but that's about where we'd be testing to the upper end of this descending wedge here. That's, if we can break above that, great. That could be getting us into a more bullish pattern. But let's see if we can even test up and get above that. We need to see a solid break above 10,000. And then we're probably going to something like at least probably around like 10.4, 10.5. There's been some resistance there. And if we can break through that, maybe up to 11. But let's be patient on that. All right, now the bear scenario, at least short-term bearish. We don't get back above, or we maybe get back above and hold here a little bit. Maybe even we test up, but we don't break out above this wedge. We break down below. Then we're probably looking at, let's go to a little bit longer time frame. Okay, we see a solid break below here. We don't get back above 9.5, or don't hold above 9.5. We keep going down. We're going to have some support at about 9,000, though traditionally, although it's psychological, not that much support appears to be there. I'm looking at more support at about 8,800, and down to 8,000 is probably the levels we're looking at if we break down here. So watch for 8,800, watch for 8,000. The MACD is not looking super optimistic. If we have a quick bounce here, it could turn around, but right now the MACD, well, this is on the daily, but on most time frames, isn't looking very great. It looks like we might be in for a little bit more of a downside. So also buy volume, well, it hasn't been too bad, but we've been mostly selling off lately. The volumes in general haven't been that high, so I think that a big move could come that could go either way still, but it's setting up to look more bearish. That's not a prediction. I've seen bullish twists at the last minute before. Really, once this wedge breaks, this larger wedge breaks, that'll be telling us more about what we should expect in the coming weeks and months. Really quick, I want to zoom out to a larger time frame, talk about something that if you followed me on Chepicap, you know I talk about a lot, but looking at this in a broader time frame is always, I think, really important to get some perspective. So let's zoom out really quick. All right, here I've zoomed out to the weekly time frame, and it's also on a logarithmic scale now. Just to point out, as I have before, that we have this ascending trend line that for many years now Bitcoin has deviated from and returned to. The previous crypto winter, we spent kind of a long time along here before the bull run truly kicked in. In fact, we had to get above basically previous all-time highs. In this recent crypto winter, we didn't spend that long on here, and I think that plausibly the healthiest thing to do, I've talked about this before, is a general return to the trend line. Now, whether it's slightly more down or slightly longer, hard to say. The three paths I've laid out before are a more abrupt kind of a crash right now, which would take us down to this trend line fairly quickly. Could see us around maybe the 7,000 level if it happened fairly quickly. A longer, more sideways tendency would probably be the healthiest. Could take us well into 2020. And then we wouldn't see a whole lot of upward or downward price action, probably between like 9 and 11 or something like that. We could even see, to be a little bit more bullish, more of an upward shift. We could still have some more upside before we return to this level or to this trend line. But if we don't break above the 20,000, this recent high, then I don't think we're going to go truly parabolic yet until we do. It's just a question of whether it's going to happen a little bit sooner that we get back to this trend line or take a little bit longer, but I do think we'll come back to it. That being said, that's my general outlook for Bitcoin. Looking at the broader crypto market, as you can see, it's just not looking that great. Last week we saw a hint that we might be seeing a little bit of an altcoin run. A notable exception is Chainlink here. Also, BitZ is doing well, but these are kind of not typical of most of the alts. You can see most alts are kind of going along with Bitcoin. When it's dipping, they're dipping. Last week we saw them pull away a little bit, but it's just not like following through. Sure enough, we look at market capitalization, or I should say dominance for Bitcoin, and we're at almost 69% again. We saw that little hiccup, but it didn't last long, and it's not holding. So no, the altcoin rally's still not in, but that's okay. We can be patient. All right, let's turn to news. One thing everyone's been talking about, the Backed Exchange launched its Bitcoin futures, but we did not see an exceptional rally for the price of Bitcoin. Obviously, it was just talking about how it's been dipping. This really isn't that big of a deal to me. I think not only should we not be expecting like one institutional move to really take us to the moon, this article on CoinDesk highlights nicely how, first of all, on other futures launches, we've seen dips immediately following them. This isn't uncommon in crypto in general. You've all heard, what is it, buy the rumor, sell the news? This is the news. Generally speaking with crypto, I think a lot of times things are priced in when the rumor gets out that something's going to happen, and we don't see, either we see no real significant move or a decline when things actually happen, like getting listed on an exchange or some announcement that everyone knew was coming kind of thing. This is like that. It's great. I think it's good that there's institutional interest going into Bitcoin, and I think Backed is a great potential platform for that. It's just that it was never going to make us go to 10 million on day one or anything like that. So be patient. We'll see. Moving on. We got Kik. Basically, the Kik messaging app is done. It's no more. And it has to do with the fact that the KIN token tied to it is being attacked by the SEC as being a potential security. They're going to try to keep KIN alive, basically, even though they're shutting down the Kik app. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they can keep the ecosystem alive without Kik, to also keep it alive while it's under attack from the SEC. Is it a security? I'm not an expert on that. Keep in mind, I'm here as a student. In all my videos that I'm about to put out, remember, I'm a student as much as a teacher. I'm trying to share what I'm learning. So please fill me in on what you know. From what I understand of securities, KIN does sound a lot like a security, but there could be some fine arguments there that I'm not familiar with. But it is like, basically put out by a company with the promise of future growth and that it's going to be worth something in time. But I don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. It'll be an interesting case to watch, especially for how it could be setting a precedent for a lot of other potential securities in the crypto market. That could be a pretty big deal. So one more interesting thing about crypto is we're going to talk about how Japan is jumping on board with the kind of basically just voicing that it's concerned about the Libra, Facebook's potentially up-and-coming cryptocurrency. So yeah, all I'll say about this is that the Libra is something we should be concerned about. I'm glad to hear that a lot of nations and financial institutions are pretty concerned about it. Do I need to say much about how should we trust Facebook with a currency, with their own currency that they basically control? I know, we don't control it. It's a consortium of all these different companies who paid us a lot of money to help control it. And I don't think the Libra should be trusted. I think it's obvious it should not be trusted. I think if Facebook maybe worked to adopt a different crypto, one that it doesn't control at all, that already has an independent ecosystem, that could be cool. But no, I think Libra's troublesome, to say the least, and I'm excited to see Japan jumping on board with basically at least saying, hey, let's watch this, let's talk about this. All right, moving to CNBC and Jim Cramer. Basically, Cramer's talking about how, now we're moving to a more broad financial thing here, he's talking about how the current market looks a lot like the dot-com era. Stock or company valuations, and by extension stocks, are being valued on things more than just company earnings. This is troublesome. It's creating it is reminiscent of the dot-com era from what I understand. Basically, this actually ties into crypto a lot too, because we're in a time when there's a lot of technology, and this article kind of talks about how this has to do with the FANG stocks, the technology stocks, and how they don't create products the way traditional industries did, so their valuations are a little bit harder to dial in. If that doesn't sound like crypto, of course. There's a lot going on with both traditional markets and crypto where we are a little bit outside of our depth, I think, in terms of understanding where we're at and what our various new technologies should be worth. So you should check out my last video with Chepicap, where I do talk a little bit about the potential of a global recession and how it's going to affect crypto. But I think this is tied to that. I think that there's a chance that a lot of markets, crypto and traditional, are overextended because we're just a little bit out of our depth. And so we're just pushing those valuations up based on excitement. And there's something, all these technologies, these companies and these technologies have a lot of value to them, no doubt. But we might need to see some like kind of trimming of the fat. And I think there's a lot in the market that's looking like it might be setting up for that in the global economy. But we'll get more into that in future videos, you know. Anyway, so that's kind of what Cramer's saying here, though, and CNBC is saying that watch out, things are looking a little suspicious. So one more thing, moving more towards tech. Apparently, Google has created the most powerful quantum computer in the world, more powerful than supercomputers, more powerful than Google's cloud. But there's also a little bit of a sexy element here where apparently this paper was posted and then taken down very quickly. So my guess is it's just, well, their official story is that basically they haven't had time to peer review and test the results and blah, blah. And that might be a super valid, literally true reason why. Like they're not sure that these claims are fully supported. But I guess I would make the point that even if they haven't quite created as powerful of a quantum computer as they're claiming, if they're getting close, you know, clearly there's a lot of work being done. Without getting into a whole video about quantum computers, maybe I should do that at some point. Keep that in mind. Basically, this, again, ties into crypto because quantum computers can make a lot of currently existing, not all, but a lot of currently existing cryptocurrencies at risk. Actually, even like kind of dangerously broken in the sense that quantum computers hold the potential to solve the complex problems that secure crypto in a matter of seconds, which is what they're claiming here, is that they have a computer that can solve, what is the actual numbers here? The claim is that the new quantum processor, so it takes their new quantum processor just around 200 seconds to make calculations that existing supercomputers would require around 10,000 years to perform. They also said the processor requires mere 30 seconds to complete a task the Google Cloud server would need 50 trillion hours to do. Now, regardless if those exact numbers are true, that's the power of quantum computing. It's going to be able to do, to solve equations insanely faster than traditional computing. So something to watch out. Whether or not this is fully accurate or if they're jumping the gun a little bit, this is coming pretty soon. This is just a good sign that it's maybe even happening faster than we thought. We should be aware of it. This also might be what leads to true consciousness in AI. But again, maybe getting ahead of myself for the purpose of this video. Suffice to say for now, know that Google seems to have come one step closer to creating, if not actually has created, the world's most powerful computer by a good margin ever. Alright, my little beeps and boops, that ought to do it for me today. I'll be back on Thursday to talk about whatever's going on in the world and how I feel about it. In general, I'm going to try to ramp up production to 2 to 3 times a week, maybe more if reception is good. Until next time, thanks for watching and keep your eyes on the future.